Oi. I'm not sure how far I'll get with this. I want to make a correction about some of my last videos, but and I've been thinking about it since I posted them. Um, but I just had a small epiphany, and it's so great when great truths can be boiled down succinctly, even if um, all right. So the what I'm about to say is going to have, to my mind, a high degree of accuracy, quite high. Not very, but quite, and a low degree of resolution. But I just had this epiphany that, you know, we all know, and you. Here's the thing too. Stereotypes are underappreciated because stereotypes, generally speaking, are statistical trends emotionalized, narrativized. So the narrative, the internal dialogue, God knows I have one, and more than a dialogue, a multi-dialogic, or just flatly a multilogical inner me. I spent the last 2 days fuming over nothing. And I do mean fuming. But I was able to build that ember. Trying trying to kick trying to kickstart that little fella. Mumble. But yeah, I had this epiphany that yeah. Well, what I was gonna say is like stereotypes are the emotionalized, moralized, statistical narrative bearing, which is to say, like statistics. Yeah, you're not a statistic, but you're a lot of them. You inform the numbers, and those numbers describe you. I inform those numbers, and those numbers describe me. More or less, depending on how much data. And, the important lesson of statistics on stereotypes. Like, stereotypes are underappreciated, statistics are misrepresented. How do we fix the misrepresentation in statistics with stereotypes? How do we fix the stereotype? The how do we fix the problem of stereotyping with with the lessons we learn from statistics? Which is to say, we know statistics don't talk about every single person. So when we look at a person and we stereotype them, and that's the thing too. It's good that all this stuff about, it's good that all this pus is rising to the surface, and that's what we should think about today as all this pus rising to the surface. I remember, like, it was probably 12 years ago, about Sarah Silverman was on Point with Tom Ashbrook, I believe. And I looked for the transcript and I looked for the audio, but it wasn't uploaded to the site. Last time I looked was, like, I don't know, 8 years ago, but something like that. maybe 5. I have a misbalanced time is misbalanced. But Sarah Silverman had talked about rising all the pus to the surface, like a froth, like a foam, skimming it off and showing it. And I just thought that was one of the most beautiful. And I'm not even like the hugest. I mean, I like her comedy, but like I don't die for it. For me, for me, I think my favorite when I was a little kid, my favorite comedian was Andrew Dice Clay. So, you know, I didn't have a lot of choices. All right, you eat what's on your plate. That goes for food that you put in here, and that goes for all these things too. But I mean, even having that said, there are all kinds of rituals, and going to listen to Andrew Dice Clay is kind of like listening to that little voice that you don't like. That little Andrew Dice Clay's little voice, right? Because there's the flower, the little flower of Saint Agnes. Yes, absolutely. Not listened to. But like for a lot of people, the Andrew Dice Clay little voice, that's our other little voice. And it's like, yeah, we don't want to give it merit, but because we don't give it merit, we deny it altogether. We deny that insidious, lustful machismo. You know? We deny it, and it's like, in so much as we deny the pursuit, we are a special case of animals who are killers, who can choose not to pursue killing. Virtually, we alone. In all this that we know. Unless you believe in aliens, which most people do, or unless you believe in archangels, which some people do, or in case you believe in leprechauns, which almost nobody does, which is actually the most rational. There's not much difference between a chipmunk and a bear. I might have that wrong genetically, but there are certainly, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, it's been theorized, convincingly, I suppose, that we've evolved from shrews. Why not? God separated the water from the waters. What did that look like? Oh, the fresh water from the salt water? Oh, you mean the fishies from the mammals? Sea creatures never experienced the fresh water. Why? Because it's fucking hell. The ocean's fucking hell, man. Or it's a pretty darn good approximation. What I wanted to say was, it's How long? I've been going for 9 minutes and I haven't even got to the one sentence I'm trying to get to. All of that is just a preface trying to say, like, if you stereotype people like that, it's a statistic. If you use statistics and you put someone in there, it's a stereotype, which means it has force. It's a powerful force description in some way. It's not the whole story, and there are outliers. People fit within the stereotype, but they're actually an exception. Numbers or people can fall into a particular group of statistics, but there are outliers. That's not even the main point of what I'm trying to get to. That's just an apology, a preemption of because I know what I'm going to say. People could be like, oh, but, and I'm trying to just kind of gently and nicely and hopefully communicatively and communally and commonly just acknowledging that before the fact, because I'm trying to say something short, which took me 11 and a half minutes to get to, which is this. Most often, conservatives in the United States of America, we'll get our colors going, in the United States of America, typically conservatives are religious and don't want to pay taxes. It's a stereotype and it's a statistic. So the math and the myth meet. The math and the myth meet. Generally speaking, conservatives want to give their money to the church. They don't got money to give to the state because they're giving it to the church. Typically, liberals are more secular. That is both a stereotype and a statistic. You could otherwise call it a daimonical, DAEMONICAL, corpuscular matrix. You could call it that. Anyway, typically conservatives want to give their money to the church. They don't want to give their money to the government. Typically, liberals are more secular and want to give their money to the government and not to the church. Not only that, stereotypically, statistically, there are outliers. Statistically, the left will want to give more toward taxes, at least in lip service. But truly among us, there are the left and the right. It's funny, I feel like the left has invaded the right and the right has invaded the left. Just like one time way back, I made a video where I said, like, wouldn't it be funny if every spy in America was a double agent from Russia and every spy in Russia was a double agent from America? Where's the bottom of that rabbit hole? Well, that's where we're at. In one way or another. More or less. Accurate, imprecise. most conservatives want to give their money to the church. Most progressives want to give their money to the state, perhaps. There are non-profits, but they always fall on one or other side. Until lately. A small sun is forming. A very little one, but it has already gained an appreciable diameter. Definitely. In the world, across disciplines, across fields, across ideologies, across religions, there's this ember building. This isn't the way I lived my day today with this gratitude and, oh yeah. I was fuming. And I may well go right back to it as soon as I press stop. I'm trying to preserve some hope. And a little bit of knowledge and information, and just... It's taken me 16 minutes. Okay, this is so simple. It can be boiled down into like a sentence with a semicolon. Can I do it? The right wants to give its money to the church. The left wants to give its money to the state. There is a separation institutionally between the church and the state. It is up to us with our own free will. We must choose to reconcile in the community the church and state. The things that the state does and the things that the church does, the churches, and I mean every kind of religion. And if you don't think like a rock concert is a religion, or like roadies, or like super fans who follow like the Grateful Dead, Dave Matthews, whatever. Like, if you don't think that's a religion, that's not a cult, that's a church. The Grateful Dead is a church. Right? I was a little bit, I mean, definitely can't say nothing bad about them. I wasn't like that into them, but like, yeah, of course, man. They're beautiful. And at one time in my life, I was a little more, fish, I mean, fish. It breaches the gap between cult and religion. Pantera was a priesthood. That's all I'm saying. But okay. I got halfway there, or 2/3. 2 semicolons. A comma and a semicolon. Conservatives, Republicans in America want to give their money to the church, not to the state. Liberals in America want to give their money to the state, not to the church. Both want to do good. Both want to do good. And both are trying to crush the other one when they need the other one. Each needs the other one. And when we think of polarity, left, right, center, and when we think of the middle is this. If the sides are over here and the center's here, the top's here. We don't need to think outside the box. We need to think outside the line. And so far as outside the box, we're thinking, well, there's a box and we need to get out of it. Descartes was just phenomenal man. My concern is that we've approached, or we are very quickly collapsing upon the limit of the edification that mindset can elucidate. And even though I'm certainly no expert, I'm barely a passive reader of anything Cartesian. But, for instance, the Cartesian grid, squares. Squares are an incredibly unstable structure. We pretend like they're stable because we carve squares out of stone or cubes, and we pretend that's a stable structure. It's not. For that matter, an octahedron isn't an especially stable structure. No. Pyramid, half of an octahedron. And an octahedron is even less stable than a pyramid, like inversely less stable. That might not be true. If you're on the right, you want to give your money to the church. If you're on the left, you want to give your money to the state. If you're on the left, you don't want to give your money to the church. And if you're on the right, you don't want to give your money to the state. It's a fight between the mythos and the logos and the mythos. It's a fight between those things. If we look at Raphael's, well, it's called these days School of Athens or something like that, with Plato and Aristotle in the center. It's that fight. The Platonists don't want to give no respect to Plato. Aristotle, the Aristotelians don't want to give any respect. Well, the Aristotelians don't want to give any respect to Plato, and Plato don't want to give. The Platonians don't want to give no respect to Aristotle. Why? Because terms are misidentified and misconstrued. Not to mention, the Republic was never meant to be made public. Ever. The Republic was supposed to be a test for initiates on their way to adeption? Not adaptation. Adeption. Yeah, the Republic was never made never supposed to be made public. But that was that's the way God wanted it. Even though it's been a disaster. It might be the disaster that steers us toward a less worse, aka better, tomorrow. In the same way that sometimes firefighters light incredible forest fires to fight the fire, to kill first the food of the fire. And there's a lot of debate over like what killed the mammoths. Was it people? Was it this? Was it that? Was it geology? Was it meteorological? Astronomical? If your biggest demon was your greatest fear, there used to be bears as big as my fucking house. I have a small apartment. There are 3 units in this house. And I'm a bad neighbor. So are they. So I guess we all deserve each other. I'm deeply saddened by it, but I'm so desensitized that I don't feel it right now, which is how I get through the day. Barely. And today was a very troubling day. Still standing. Barely. Not to complain, just I'm trying to make a nice thing. And I just don't. I want to tell the truth. And the truth is, I spend most of the day in not a good place. So in that sense, I'm tithing. I don't want to give my money to the government or the church. I want to tell the truth. I'm too much of a coward to tell the truth in my real life. So I make this YouTube video. Like yesterday, I posted a video, or yesterday or the day before, of just a couple little really bad guitar things that I made. And I put King Kong was the name of the video. And it was only like 10 seconds, and then I made another one, and that was like, I don't know, 50 seconds. And anyway, it was a short. YouTube made it a short, I didn't, but it was a short, and I got 6 likes. So I deleted it, because I was like, that's too much attention for now. Because I am putting, you know how they say don't put all your eggs in one basket? I'm putting all my eggs in one fucking basket. It's not as scary anymore. Well, I shouldn't say that, because new thresholds of fright approach. Quote unquote following the truth has already like kicked my ass so much and crushed me so much, and I am so unworthy of the truth. And as I've learned many things, even though, not many things, just many more things than I thought I'd ever know, but none of the things I want to know, you know. But pursuing those things I want to know, I come across like, whoa, like things I could have never even imagined. And I'm sure you can relate to that in your own way, as your life has unfolded differently than your imagination of it, mostly. Yeah. There are these pinpricks. Here's the story you wanted, with highlights. Here's the story you got. With highlights. This line and this line ain't the same, but they cross ways. So yeah, I'm someone else. I'm like out there. I don't want to give my money to nobody. I want it for me. But time is money. So what do? I tithe. I guess you could say like the best of me hopes that this is my tithing. I'm trying to develop the courage and the arguments. Like, I have a feeling. I'm trying to find the words and like get the information to have the references. People talk about name dropping, like name dropping is bad. Well, every word is a name. Every name is a word. It's a definition. It's a thing. I'm just trying to get the abstract things I've seen. And when I say abstract, I mean they don't necessarily apply to anything that we can put our eyes and hands on in the world that we know. Except like we can look at artists' depictions of things that don't exist in this world, and we can relate to them spiritually. And I'm talking about everything that we see. Any artistic representation, like Vulgar, Gargantua and Pantagruel, writ large, over the turn of the millennium. Millennium. Conservatives want to give their money to the church, not to the state. Liberals want to give their money to the state, not to the church. The church couldn't be controlled without the state. The state couldn't be controlled without the church. That's why they must be separate, just like there are the separate arms of the government. Well, there are also separate branches of religion. And it's good that some are more, because that's the thing, we're trying to be like, this is the right mass, this is, the Latin mass is the way to go, or the, Vatican II is the way to go, or, like, fuck the Vatican altogether, Martin Luther, this, that, whatever, but, like, we should try to take these, 30,000 different denominations of Christianity and kind of maybe boil them down Divide them by 10,000, get them down to a few. Kind of like, but a lot of it has to do with like our own personalities, and maybe 12 divisions. There were 12 disciples, and they all had their ways, and they were meant to balance each other. So a lot of it is like trying to figure out which one we are. I think. I don't know. I don't know. I have a notion. But just speaking at all, saying something, or writing something down, a diary, it's different these days. You really do gotta have a catch. You really do gotta have a net. You really do gotta have a hook. You really do. I shouldn't say that. The truth always finds a way. There's always a rivulet. A linear rivulet. Because we know that the oceans have these currents, right? These underwater, these veins, these arteries of swirling waters, of pushing waters through the water, of different temperatures, of waters wrapping around themselves and creating transoceanic water slides. Water's in the water. But even those more concentrated forms do have at every point a center, a line. I don't give enough at all. Barely anything. Trying and trying and trying and trying and trying to figure out a way to give, to help. In my everyday world and to the world, trying and trying and trying to find a way to connect with the people around me. I had been really quite good at it when I was younger. I was very extroverted, popular, that kind of thing. And I hate that guy. I hate him. But there were some parts of him, me, that I liked. That could be congenial. I'm not very bright, and really, really, really struggling. Trying to find a way to contribute, even though I'm so messed up. I'm, I'm, I'm just about as messed up as you can get and still remain above ground, so far as I can tell. And, I'm very grateful for that. Though I also might be underappreciating, like, the will to live versus the gravity of death's pull from tomorrow. I've been too arrogant, especially considering my flaws. Having that said, this is a sloppy copy of something that might be good, might not. I'm still working on it.